A simple question that I do not want an answer for because I believe I know the answer already, and I do not want anyone to indict themselves in any way, shape, or form. How many of you like paying taxes? My guess is probably no hands would go up, or maybe one or two hands would go up. We don't really like paying taxes, do we, huh? It's something that is a little foreign to us. On my end, I'm not necessarily so opposed to paying taxes. Some of what my taxes go for, our taxes go for, I do oppose, but I don't oppose paying taxes. I suppose that's a normal statement to come from the son of an IRS agent, though. And think about, do you like to pay taxes? Do you like to worship? It's another question to ask. Do you like to worship God? If we think about the readings today, we hear very clearly in the gospel, Jesus identifies himself as a king. My kingdom does not belong to this world. If my kingdom did belong to this world, my subjects would be fighting for me. But as it is, my kingdom is not here. Very beginning of his life, there was concern that Jesus was a king. We know Herod ordered the killing of all of the children in Egypt to try to eliminate the newborn king of the Jews. There was concern at the time of his birth. There's concern at the time of his death. Are you really a king? Well, it's you that say that I'm a king. The kingship of Jesus, as Jesus tells us very clearly, is not of this world. It is a heavenly kingship, not an earthly kingship. And we're told that in the prophet Daniel, the beginning, we hear his dominion has no end. And we are reminded in the book of Revelation this morning, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the letters of the Greek alphabet. What is it that we pay to our King? Well, Christ the King, Jesus, our King, does not want our money. He wants our worship. That is the tax, if you will, that we pay to Christ the King. And so today maybe we just take a moment to reflect on where we are in that element of worship, and perhaps there is some analogy to the truth of April the 15th as we make that comparison. There are some, in our nation that evade paying taxes. They evaded for years. And within the church, our own parish, there are many who are, baptized and registered, but kind of evade us throughout the year. We never see them for maybe years go on. There's those among us who don't wish to join us in that element of worship. Similarly, on April the 15th, there are those who, squeak out every last deduction that they possibly can, and maybe we even, stretch the interpretation of the code to the point that the rubber band is ready to snap. We want to just pay what we have to. We don't want to give a penny more by any means. And in some senses, maybe in the spiritual end of paying worship, we're the same. We just want to do the bare minimum and not really offer more than we really have to. And so, we do time at 200 St. Gregory the Court, but we've done what we need to. We've paid our worship, we've paid our tax. And then there are some who, feel entitled, in our culture today. They feel we're owed more than we need to pay in, and we probably see that too in the element of worship. And those among us, some approach the church in that sense of entitlement. You need to provide all of these things for me, but, I don't really need to put into that mix. And then there are some among us who really don't mind paying taxes. We realize the benefits we receive from them. We realize the services that are provided, if they be education or protection, they be social services. maybe we don't agree with all of the services that are provided by our tax dollars, but we see the benefit. And so maybe it's not the greatest joy of our life to write that check, but we do realize its importance. And so too, within the church, we see those who worship so vibrantly, so faithfully. Yeah, there's other things I probably could do with my time. If it be a Sunday morning, if it be daily in the Adoration Chapel, if it be simply spending time in worship and in praise. Where are we with that sense of Christ our King and offering him that worship which is so fitting? I mentioned the beginning of Mass repeat right now. It's a reflection I often have and reflection I call myself to this particular Sunday every single year. How many of you remember Guy Lombardo? You can raise your hands for that one. I liked Guy Lombardo. I preferred the music of Guy Lombardo to the music we hear at 11 p.m. to midnight on New Year's Eve today. How many of you would agree with that one? Definitely preferred hearing Guy Lombardo. You know, New Year's Eve in our home was the same every year. Guy Lombardo would be on, and 11 o'clock sharp, the family would be all gathered together, and we would be at the dining room table to eat, and we'd have I suppose we'd call it a late night snack. And we had to have all of the dishes cleaned before midnight because you couldn't have dirty dishes going into the new year. It was one of the customs of our home. And at midnight, you could have landed a plane with precision. By our time, we all went outside onto the porch. Do you remember porches in the front of the house? We had a big porch on the front of the house in the city, and we would jingle money in our pockets. It was a custom that I'm not sure where it came from, but it was a custom that if we jingled money, I would, as I got older, crinkle 20s, because I wanted to make sure you had money in the new year. That was the custom. And of course, we would come inside for a glass of champagne. Even us kids got a little taste on New Year's at 12:05 a.m. And we would talk about our resolutions, right? How many of you have ever made a New Year's resolution? Right, we've made them. I will not ask if you honored them. I will not ask that question, But we make them, huh? We make them. Something we take that step back at that time of year. It's going to be a month away. You're going to take that step back and say, gee, in the coming year, I want to change something in my life. Maybe if it's our physical health, if it's exercise, if it's charitable work, if it's service, if it's dedication to our career, whatever it is, there's something, we examine and we see in our life that we want to change. Well, as I mentioned the beginning of Mass, we're kind of like at New Year's Eve on a spiritual sense of the term. We begin a new church year 1 week from today. And maybe in the week ahead, we can reflect upon the worship and the level that we come in at and reflect upon our own life of faith and make some type of spiritual commitment for the year ahead. We had 8th grade on retreat. 1 week the boys, 1 week the girls for an overnight retreat. And one of the things we did, I do with all of the teenagers on retreat, is we try to expand, introduce them to other ways of prayer and worship. We pray the Liturgy of the Hours, also known as the Breviary, also known as Christian prayer. The majority of Catholics have never prayed it, and yet it is the official prayer of the Church. Prayer that is praised as religious. We are bound to. We promise to pray for you, the people that we serve, but it's really a prayer for the whole church. And another way that as a church we're one because we all pray throughout the world the same prayers each and every day, the same time. Each day has its own set. We introduce our young people to that and even give them websites where they can download it if they like that type of prayer. We teach them about worship and praise, and very often in Catholic circles we're not so good at that, to sing and to use our hands and our arms and in praise of God. We're pretty good at it at, One Bill's Drive, to use our hands and our arms in praise, but when it comes to God, we're not so good in that element of praise and worship. It's a whole other element to offer that worship to God. We always have adoration. It's so beautiful on our retreats. Both retreats went over 2 hours in adoration, because after leading our young people in meditation, I invite them, if they want to come up to me, I'll pray over them. They can tell me their intentions. I pray over them. And almost every one of our 8th graders of the 73 came. It was really wonderful to see. A whole new experience for them, adoration. Many of them never experienced it, and to be prayed over, a whole new experience of worship and praise. So this New Year's Eve, on the spiritual sense of the term, where we honor Christ our King, knowing he does not really care for our money, but rather our worship, where is it that we are in that level of worship? And as we reflect on our life, is there some area of worship we've yet to explore? Maybe make a commitment in the new year to discover that and use that. Or is there some area of worship that, we're a little rusty at, or maybe it's been introduced to us, but we've never developed? Maybe that's the commitment. Or maybe we're doing a lot of different forms of worship and we can just grow deeper in that experience. Do you like paying taxes? Do you like worshiping Christ our King?